Environmental Commission. So thank you all in advance for joining, and thank you for being understanding if we have any hiccups along the way, which hopefully we don't. So we are, just so everyone knows, we are recording this this meeting. I have muted all of the panelists, and if you wish to speak, please just unmute yourself, and we will get to the attendees in just a little bit. So before we get started, we will do a call to order and a welcoming of our newest commissioner. I guess we still have to take roll call, right, Lindsey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so we have, right now we have on the line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 commissioners, 4 constitutes quorum. This meeting was sunshined, Carolina, in several periodicals, right?
Yeah, on Thursday, June 18th, yes.
So today we have, and I'll unmute you all. We have Guzman.
Here.
We have our newest member, Tammy Weaver-Henry.
Here.
Welcome. We have Scott Mittman via the phone.
Here.
And Matt Trump also via the phone.
Yep, here.
Sweet. Great. Sorry, guys. Okay. Actually, if you don't mind, I guess we can briefly go around and introduce ourselves, just maybe how long we've been on the commission, just so that you, kind of can meet us, Tammy. So I'll just go first. So my name is Allison Kuko. I chair the Environmental Commission, and I've been on the commission now for over 5 years. I live in Jersey City, obviously. I live in Ward C. B. I live in Ward B. I live near McGinley Square. Okay, sorry. And I will vote Luz to go next. You go. Yeah.
My name is Luz Guzman. I recently came on to the board in, I guess it was February. I think I only attended one meeting and then COVID hit. I'm chair of the Friends of Lincoln Park, and I've been doing that for a couple of years, but I'm happy to be on board. Thanks.
Scott, you're up.
Oh, hi. I'm Scott Mittman. Let's see, I've been on the commission a year, maybe a year. I was on the Historic Preservation Commission for a long time before that. Also, former long-time board member of the Historic Paulus Hook Association, involved in all kinds of different issues with them. I'm also an associate dean at New Jersey City University, and my area of expertise is the environmental sciences and sustainability. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Scott. Matt, you can go next.
Yep, I'm Matt Trump. I think I've been on the commission for about a year and a half. I live in Ward C.
And then do you want to introduce yourself, Tammy, real quick?
Oh, sure. Well, I'm Tammy, Reverend Tammy Weaver-Henry. Let's see, I have so many titles, I'm not even going to go there. I live in Ward F, and I'm certainly concerned about the environment, and it's an honor to be on the board and to be of help to my city. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Okay. So how we're going to do this meeting is how we kind of do most meetings, where we'll allow for the public to have like just general participation in the beginning of the meeting, so that they don't have to feel obligated to stay the entire time if they don't want to. We are going to try and keep that to 5 minutes, just out of the interest of everyone's time. So if you are an attendee that would like to speak, you can raise your hand. I see Matt has raised his hand first. And then of course, if you, what we'll do, we'll start having Matt speak. And then if anyone, you know, feels just passionate and wants to speak after Matt, just feel free to raise your hand and then we'll call on you next, okay? All right. All right, Matt, are you ready? I'm sure you are. I'm allowing you to talk right now.
Thank you, Allison, and greetings, everyone. My name is Matt Smith. I'm the New Jersey State Director for Food and Water Action. Food and Water Action represents about 70,000 members and supporters across the state of New Jersey, including over 400 in Jersey City. And yeah, I'm here tonight to talk about the New Jersey Transit Grid project proposal, which includes construction and operation of a major new power plant that would be fueled by fracked gas that's produced via hydraulic fracturing, and would be located less than 2 miles from the nearest residential property in Jersey City, just on the other side of the Hackensack River in Kearney on the Copper's Cove Peninsula. It's a former Superfund site. So I'm speaking tonight because we are working to build public awareness and public opposition to the proposal to essentially power this microgrid that New Jersey Transit wants to build. We agree with the central objective that building microgrids to keep our public transit and critical infrastructure moving and operating during times when the central power grid is down, like in the aftermath of Superstorm Sandy, is essential. We know that more extreme weather is coming due to climate change. But what we are opposing is to fuel that microgrid with the same fossil fuels that are not only responsible for the increase in extreme weather events, but a tremendous burden on our public health, on our environment. These things have never been more important than during the pandemic. A recent study from Harvard University found that even communities who had small increases of particulate matter pollution 2.5, which is one of the common pollutants from power plants, had much higher mortality rates and infection rates during the pandemic through COVID-19 infection. So we know that healthy lungs and clean air quality is essential. And perhaps no more essential than right now. We also know that historically, Jersey City has really gotten the short end of the stick in terms of the disproportionate pollution burden that residents of this city have had to endure. Previously from the Hudson Generating Facility, the coal power plant that operated in the heights of Jersey City for decades. Ironically, this new power plant is literally right across the Hackensack River from that old one. So it's not built yet, it's not approved yet, and that's why we're here. We're asking for Jersey City Environmental Commission to hopefully join us in opposing the proposal to power this microgrid for New Jersey Transit trains to keep them running when the power grid goes down, and instead power it with clean energy, with a combination of renewable energy and energy storage. And that would provide all of the same benefits to keeping our public transit resilient without any of the public health or environmental burden. Just in a major breakthrough for our effort. So I also, in addition to working with Food and Water Watch, I'm part of a coalition. We have 65 organizations, primarily in northern New Jersey, many in Jersey City and Hudson County, including local Sierra Club and others. And Hoboken City Council recently passed a resolution unanimously to oppose the project and call for a renewable alternative. Ridgefield, New Jersey, which is just Hudson County's neighbor to the north, it borders North Bergen, passed a resolution. And Kearney, New Jersey has passed a resolution opposing the project in its current form. So, Jersey City Environmental Commission demonstrated incredible leadership. And the last time we had a polluting power plant proposed in Hudson County, and passed a resolution in opposition to the first Meadowlands power plant. And so I guess I'm here to ask you again for your support. We think that the timing is critical. New Jersey Transit is moving forward fast with this proposal, full steam ahead, pun intended. And so we really want to get ahead of this and show the Board of Commissioners at New Jersey Transit that the communities surrounding this plant don't need another source of air pollution, and that we're calling on them to replace that with a clean energy alternative. And so we have a model resolution. We've spoken with 3 members of Jersey City Council, all have shown some interest, but we think having the Jersey City Environmental Commission weigh in with a formal recommendation, like the Hoboken, I guess the companion, their green team sort of functions as their environmental commission in Hoboken. They voted unanimously to call on City Council to pass the resolution. I guess that's what we're asking Jersey City Environmental Commission to do as well. So thank you so much for the time. I hope I'm not too far over.
No, you're good, Matt, actually. And I also kind of forgot to start my timer. So, but one question, if you don't mind, while we still have you, would you just confirm that Ridgefield, Hoboken, and Kearney, you said that they are opposing this in its current form, and that is exclusively because it is powered by natural gas. Is that correct?
Yes, we and the towns support the idea of building a microgrid that would keep trains running when the power grid is down, but it's the source of power for that microgrid that we're in opposition to. And we believe that New Jersey Transit never thoroughly looked at clean alternatives, and the technology is changing and improving literally every single day. And so we want them to conduct a more thorough, timely alternatives assessment to see how they can power this microgrid with cleaner sources of energy.
Sweet. Thank you very much, Matt. And commissioners, we have a folder within our Google Drive that actually has the sample resolution. It has the feasibility study that it's a feasibility study that was written by the folks from Clean Water. I'm going to mute you, Matt. Sorry, yeah, Clean Water Action, Food and Water Action, and we also have an environmental environmental impact statement. It was an environmental impact statement that the the NJ Transit Commission. So, thanks, Matt. Yep, Food and Water Action. I appreciate that. And we are also going to talk about this a little bit later on in the meeting. So thank you again, Matt, for joining. And that's the only hand that we have up. If anyone else would like to just introduce yourself, please feel free to do that. You don't have to actually have anything substantial to say. I'm going to lower your hand. Oh, okay, Nicole. Nicole, I'm going to allow you to speak right now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Pamani. I live in Ward E, as I just discovered. I've been living in Jersey City for 2 years. Before that, I lived in Weehawken. I just completed an MBA in sustainability last month, and I'm launching my own consulting practice for the circular economy. Stumbled upon your website a few days ago and saw that you guys were having a meeting tonight, so I thought I'd just check in. Excited to hear about the great work that you're doing. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining. And please feel free to stay if you can, the entire meeting, but or hop in, hop off. That's kind of, I guess, one of the nice things about having these meetings from home. But thank you, Nicole. Okay. All right. So that seems like the only folks that have their hand raised. And so then let's just start moving forward with our old business. So the first item of old business that we have is the Liberty State Park Protection Act. So again, that's a little vague, but also we haven't met each other in a few months. And so there has been a little bit of updates. So first, the Liberty State Park Protection Act was drafted by the Friends of Liberty State Park and with assistance from New York, New Jersey Bay Heber, I guess I would say primarily. And we've been trying to get it passed for the last at least a year. It had different sponsors in the state legislature. It failed to get introduced in the last, session of the previous legislator. And so it has new sponsors, and the Jersey City Environmental Commission has in the past been very supportive of Liberty State Park, protecting Liberty State Park, and we have supported this piece of legislation. So why it is on our agenda again is the Friends of Liberty State Park has worked with the folks within City Council to form a resolution for the Jersey City Council to support the introduction and passage of this act at the state level. Okay, and so we, as the Environmental Commission, can change the language of past letters that we have sent of support for this act and send it directly to City Council, just again showing our support. So I sent over, and I do apologize, I sent over a draft today. It basically is, it's very similar language that we have used in the past. As I said, I italicized the new pieces of information though. And so I can pull that up. And if anyone has anything to say about that, Luz, I know that you were at the meeting with City Council last night. If you want to give us a little bit of update.
The issue with the council members isn't, they're going to pass it. They said that. They said, they promised, they pledged that they would pass it. They just want to give, and as I said in the email, I'm not exactly clear why, they wanted to give Jermaine Robinson, the councilman from Ward F, a little time to put together a community meeting. Because apparently, and I'm just paraphrasing and telling you what happened at the meeting. Apparently, years past, whenever Liberty Parks did something, it seemed like they left out that whole community. And they wanted to point out, and which I found out toward the end of the meeting, from Denise Ridley, who's from Ward A, is that they have private businesses there, and they pointed out Liberty House and I guess the other restaurant, and they just, what the connection was, I'm not exactly sure, but so one of the councilmen voted to table the resolution for July with the anticipation that, I guess it's both Denise Ridley and Jermaine Robinson can talk to their constituents or whoever it is that they want to get involved with Liberty State Park projects. They said, he used the word leverage. They're using Cave in Point as leverage, which I don't understand what that means. It's almost like holding it hostage. I didn't want to say that when I spoke, but it seems that that's what they're doing. So that Liberty State Park would come to the table to listen to this other group of people. I could be wrong because it wasn't really explained. And in fact, Councilman Solomon said they could do both. They could pass this resolution. They were going to pass it. It was to the point where it was going to get passed. But Baggiano wanted to table it because he wanted to give Jermaine Robinson the benefit of the doubt. And so they promised, they pledged, literally on record, that they would pass this resolution, but they just wanted to give Jermaine Robinson that time. So that's like the gist of what happened.
Thank you so much. That's an excellent update. And thank you for bringing up Caven Point as well, because and I'm sure most folks, maybe most people on the call know, and I know most commissioners definitely know, but Caven Point is a natural area. And when I say natural area, that's actually its designation. Like most of Jersey City, it's not been a natural area for its entire life, but now it is. And it's actually closed for a majority of the year. Because it has such importance as migratory and nesting bird habitat. And so there's been plans to try to lease or allow for that land to be taken over by the golf course next door. And so there's been like an ongoing battle to try and keep this area from getting developed. And so in the letter that I drafted, and this is something that also, again, we've drafted versions of this letter for the last few years. The only thing that I added was a little bit about, I think, being honest about how the history of Liberty State Park, because some of the opposition about passing this legislation that has been raised to me is that Liberty State Park is not necessarily a pristine park. It has, like Lincoln Park, sorry, Luz, to call you out, but has a history of industrialization, and Berry Lane Park, right? And so I wanted to get to that and also just mention that there are still parts of the park that require remediation. And so the park's interior still does require remediation, and the NJDEP is still moving forward with planning that remediation. So this Protection Act would not actually stop any of that. I think I wrote something. The JCC fully supports the remediation, and we look forward to working with the NJDEP as they progress with the planning and construction phase. We recognize that the Liberty State Park Protection Act would not hinder any party's ability or responsibility to remediate the park where necessary. So I wanted to have that in there because we're an environmental commission, that it's not as if we want the park to just kind of freeze. We understand that there still is work to be done, but what we would like to do is ensure that, especially after any remediation, that that everything in the park, except for, which Denise Ridley pointed out, all things that are already privatized, remain open to the public. Okay. Do you guys want me to take you off? Does anyone want to weigh in?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just saying I fully support that, and the updates to the letter sound really good. And I think with everything in the last couple of months, making sure we have public access to green spaces and keeping things accessible to everyone and not privatized is really important. So
That's an excellent point, Matt. Thank you.
Well, actually, you answered my question. Because I read your letter earlier today, and it was just simply going to be in terms of the privatization, would the existing private organizations remain? And of course they will. So I also support the letter, and it's perfect. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. If we don't have anyone else, we can actually just do a formal vote as well. So, and Tammy, just as a little bit of backstory, like we pretty much vote on mostly everything here. So we'll have just, a consensus. This vote will allow, after someone motions for it, for us to send this letter to City Council. So that's all this vote is. It's just sending this letter of support to City Council.
So it's just a matter of placing forth a motion, someone seconding the motion, all pass in favor. Okay, just making sure. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Of course.
I'll do a motion.
I'll second your motion.
Sorry, I apologize. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. So all 5 of the commissioners, geez, there's wording. I'm sorry, this is embarrassing. But the motion is supported. Carolina, what am I supposed to say? That's it. This motion is supported. All commissioners voted in favor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, it's been a while.
It's like, yeah, it's not like riding a bike. Okay. So then our next item updates on the ANJEC, which is the Association for New Jersey Environmental Commission grants for open space stewardship projects. So over the course of this pandemic, we applied for, and I'm excited to say that we have received a small grant from ANJEC. And the grant is, Carolina, you wrote the grant primarily. So do you want to talk a little bit about it?
So I would take credit for it, but no, I didn't primarily write it, but I did help out and I gave some details regarding for the application. So we were awarded the $1,500 for the open space stewardship project grants for our Oak Street Pollinator Garden. I think I'm going to share, hold on, with you the link to the garden. We took a tour of it this week. And hold on. And I think everyone should have access to that. But we basically just took pictures, tried to think of places where the garden would be best suited, since it is a busy park. So we're thinking about putting it up against the building that is in the Oak Street Park. So we're open to ideas. Eric Fleming, who kind of organized the park, that's been his project for the past few months. He is drawing up some ideas for the garden, and if anyone on the commission wants to be more involved, if they want to give us feedback and review those drawings once he's done with them, please let me know so I can include you in those emails and in any future meetings that we have.
That's awesome. Thank you. Very cool photos. And I'm so sorry, Carolina. Did you say if there's anything about a timeline?
So the projects have to be completed by July 21st of next year. So, but I know that the next steps are the drawings, and hopefully within the next week or so, we can share that with whomever's interested in the commission to be involved with that project.
Just my question, where exactly is this garden? Oak and?
It's Oak Street. It's I think it's 770 Ocean Avenue. Hold on, let me get the exact address of it. Yes, it's 770 Ocean Avenue.
It is. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, so then that is all for our old business. So we can move on to new business. So our first item on the new business is actually the NZ Transit natural gas powered plant microgrid. So after we've heard, and again, thank you, Matt, if you're still on the call for that update. I know maybe you haven't had a chance to look over the materials. Again, they are in the Google Drive. But does anyone want to talk about this now? Would you like, we can also wait, either, we can wait a month to vote on whether or not we support this initiative. Just as a little bit of backstory, the Jersey City Environmental Commission has several times voted to support similar legislation, which would be to oppose any new construction of fossil fuel run power plants. The only one, I think the only reason that this is a little bit different is because it's NJ Transit, and maybe the fact that it's a microgrid, so that they're trying to get this up and running so that we don't have a similar breakdown as we did during Sandy. But I would say that that's probably the only difference. I don't know if that makes a difference to everyone about how they feel about supporting something like this.
Yeah, a lot of problems with these projects that the state keeps wanting to put forward, I think it has to do with cost. Right now, gas, I think, is pretty cheap. And so one of the things, and I remember this was about a year or so ago, a Republican made a comment, I don't remember who it was, saying that whenever, the environmentalists propose, yeah, you have to do this, you have to do this, they never give a cost analysis. So how cost effective, and so that's the main thing that keeps coming up. It's not that it's bad or good for the environment. You could say that to your blue in your face, whether the Republicans believe it or not, but in the back of their mind, and I'm not saying the state is Republican or whatever, but when you have conservative politicians, they look at cost, they look at jobs, and that ends up being the bottom line. So I was just wondering if in the report, does that go into detail, how cost effective is it when you switch it from fossil fuel to something that's more sustainable?
Yep. That's an excellent point, and I knew that would be brought up. So that is actually addressed in the not the feasibility study. You can correct me if I'm wrong. It's the NJ Transit Grid, the environmental impact statement. So I have uploaded it to our Google Drive. It is very lengthy, and I have not actually had the time to really delve into it, but I think that you are completely correct that it's an issue of cost. I know that also one of the ideas put forth by the opposition to this is, even though, yes, it might be more costly, the technology is changing so rapidly. And when this impact statement was, put together, it was, I think, in 2018, or that's when the process began. And so potentially there are advances that would make this more feasible from a monetary standpoint than would be reflected in the impact statement that they're using to make these decisions.
And personally, my personal feeling is that I think we should get away from these fossil fuels, only because so many people, as a business person, you would think that, okay, there are new innovations, you have to keep up with the changing times. And if you're a business person, you'd want to change over to something that everyone's going to contribute to or buy into, which that's just my personal thought.
So, and then one other thing is, because I totally agree. And as of right now, we by and large get our energy from, PSE&G, and PSE&G has already committed to not building any new fossil fuel plants in anywhere. And so already that is kind of the baseline. I think that helps the argument. And Matt is sending over some stuff to us as well. So I wonder though, if we should take this month to look at the environmental impact statement, to look at the costs, and to really come up with an informed decision that we're comfortable with, and then decide whether we would like to move forward with supporting a resolution to go to City Council. That said, I do already know that some folks from City Council have been approached about this. So at least it's on some people's radar. And so maybe if it continues to be on their radar and within a month, we can either, come out to support it or not if we decide not to. It could be timely still, even if it's a month away. If you think that's a good plan, give me a thumbs up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a great idea. I perused the actual impact statement, but I wanted to really dive in and do a little background and some history. And I see Mr. Smith is sharing a few articles. So yeah, I would say we would table it and come back so that we can have, a little power behind our point that we push. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, cool, perfect. I clearly agree with Tammy. So if anyone opposes us, please let us know. Cool. Okay, and then over the course of the month, if myself or anyone else hears about whether council people are supporting this, I'll just share that with everyone. But we'll just plan to reassess this next month in our July meeting, which takes place. Do you remember, Carolina?
Our July meeting is supposed to take place on the 14th, but we have to have that conversation because of planning and historic and all of their meetings.
So it'll be sometime in July.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Carolina. Okay. Next, the bag ban. So the Jersey City bag ban ordinance recommendations during COVID-19. So clearly the pandemic has changed everything. And one thing that it has certainly changed, I think, is people's attitudes to reusing something many times. And so there's less of a desire, I think, for folks to ban or stop using plastic items. I'm sure if you go out to eat, you'll notice that now everyone's using plastic items because you don't have to then sanitize it. So it's less risky for the folks who are handling your, glass of wine or something like that. And so that's one thing, is that maybe there's less of an appetite. But another thing that I think is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carolina, or even Lindsey, if you know, but that there's less of an enforcement during this time because there's a preoccupation. And so maybe the ban itself is just not being enforced as much because we have so many other things to worry about. And so in that vacuum, does the Jersey City Environmental Commission want to say something to the effect of, I know it's a pandemic, but that doesn't mean that we should be using all of this plastic. And so let's think of ways that we can still try to enforce this ban. And we want you, the city, to do that. Or can we say, if you're not going to enforce the ban, then can we at least have a conversation with our residents so they know what's going on? And so that we say, okay, the timeline is we will, rediscuss this moving forward in a year or something like that. So, Lucy, you said that ANJEC came out with, I think it was a webinar or at least some sort of a statement saying that environmental commissions, like ways to help environmental commissions say that this is not an opportunity to fall back on your obligations, right?
They are saying that it's, you have to be even more on top of it. I don't know if Carolina went to the last webinars. They said it twice. There were 2 webinars. The last webinar, they said it again, and they were giving examples in other counties where, in fact, it happened here. So someone gave an example that the city told them to stop doing their meetings, but in the meantime, their zoning board they didn't call it zoning board. Their zoning board was still doing their meetings, but a lot of the projects were connected to the environment. And they were like, well, if they're meeting, then we have to meet. So of course, this is taking it off on a tangent, but that was the last meeting. The meeting before that, they said, or the webinar, they said that plastics is going to be more of a problem now, and so that's why we shouldn't let up. It shouldn't be that it's going to be a problem. It's a problem, and we see it in Jersey City. I mean, I see rubber gloves on the streets, and it's really bad. So the mayor actually has them doing street sweeping again because there was a problem with everyone throwing stuff on the street. So yeah, so they said it, and I think now the mayor, I think, would be a good time to approach it, say, you know, I think we still should be a little bit, we should be enforcing it somehow, some way, because it's important. We don't want this on the streets. Now we have different plastics that we have to worry about.
So I'm even thinking like maybe of just trying to have some sort of a dialogue and saying, hey, we understand that there isn't necessarily the capacity to enforce as much as we had in the past. However, this is still an issue. And so can we discuss ways that we can attempt to just do better than what we're doing now? And how can the Environmental Commission support that?
You know, I think this is a very complicated issue. On one hand, there's less of an appetite for folks to listen to so-called facts or real science. So, you know, there's going to be some natural pushback. So it's tricky to, you know, say that this is the wrong time to keep up this ban. However, you know, speaking as a microbiologist, viral detection is a difficult thing to do. And it's certainly difficult to do with different surfaces. So, you know, I've read some of the literature here, and some of it's very straightforward using, you know, typical methods, and others, there have been some questions. But of course, this gets into the, you know, details within science. But the bottom line here is that the CDC and virtually every clinician and epidemiologist you'll speak to has shown that this virus, the evidence is shown that it's really through person to person as opposed to surface to person. It's a question of viral load, you know. And for every different virus, there's a different amount of viral particles that need to be inhaled or whatever the case to cause an infection. So, you know, obviously, if I could say really what I wanted to say, I'd say it's crazy not to move forward with this ban. And there are always going to be hiccups, and we have to figure things out moving forward what's best for everybody. And this is just a very convenient way to sort of drop back to bad habits. So, you know, mixed bag here. Are we the bad guys and we just, you know, keep on passing the message that we're scientists and we know best? You know, I do kind of think that, you know, we're data informed, but that's sort of not what the public wants to hear. So, you know, I don't know if this is a battle that's
We're
winning. I don't know, at least not right now.
I'm sorry. We're up against the business people, the small businesses that are suffering right now. So that's the issue. So it would be a good idea to bring them into some kind of talk. Some of the small businesses in the area. I already know around my area, businesses have shut down, they're not coming back. So that's a pretty sensitive subject to bring, but at the same time, they can't deny the fact that there's just too much plastic out there.
Yeah, I mean, I actually kind of forgot, like right before all of this went down, we had supported amendments, so changes to the bag ban, which would eliminate that sort of like loophole. Like if you have a thicker plastic bag, that's allowed, because people we know weren't reusing those thicker plastic bags, and also putting a price on paper products, and allowing for the business owner to keep that cost, right? So that the cost would be really incurred by the shopper. And it was actually tabled
just before.
People just before, yeah. And there was only one person who didn't support it. But either way, what's my train of thought? Oh, so, but I agree. I don't think that there's as much of an appetite now, given the fact that people and businesses are already up against financial dire straits, to have them incur another cost. Or, hey, we know that you ordered all of these really thick plastic bags. However, but we want you to not use those because they're not good for the environment, and we want you to buy more expensive paper ones. Right?
Right.
Yeah, but in the big calculus of things, some of these places that may not come back, I'll admit that this is an insult, but this is not the injury that's doing them in. And but again,
Could be
not being sympathetic to the issues that are going on.
Right, but it could be the straw that breaks the camel's back for the ones who are just hanging on. I'm assuming, I agree that we should still do it. I'm just letting you know that that's what I think is going to happen. And I think you should bring them to the conversation. Because I think the main problem is we can have this discussion, but the stakeholders have to be involved, and that would be the small businesses. So I would suggest doing some kind of meeting. Anjac also has a movie regarding plastics, just to show how bad the plastic is around the world. And that might be something that we should co-host with them. They said we could do it as long as their name is on it. I forget the name, it's something plastic.
I'll Google it. You keep talking because I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I saw them actually. So I actually purchased it. It's only $2 on Amazon, and they say you can purchase it. But I can't show it unless I put Anjac because there's copyright laws. So Anjac bought the copyrights for this particular movie. We can show it, but they'd have to be co-hosts just to avoid any problems. But that movie is like, for me, it was devastating what I saw around the world. It was, in fact, I stopped buying some of the stuff that I usually buy that are individually wrapped because they show how hard it is to recycle those papers. So it's not just about collecting recycling, it's also some recyclables aren't really that recyclable, which I found out. But that would be, I don't know if that's a project you want to take on.
It's the story of plastic.
The story of plastic, okay.
I personally think that is an excellent idea. So use this as an opportunity to do some education and outreach and saying, we understand that people are plagued with bad and depressing news right now, and we don't mean to, add to that. However, there are some steps that we can still take to make a difference, and you can be a part of that solution. And here's a movie. We can do a video showing, I guess, are they showing it now?
I don't know. The way they did it, they gave you a link and you had access to it for a couple of hours. But you can, Anjac had already, in the last webinar, they said, reach out to them. They'll tell you exactly how to do it. You just have to make them a co-host.
Luz, was it, I think I remember, was it called Plastic Ocean, or was it like Bag It or something like that?
No, it was the story of plastic.
The name was what? I'm sorry?
The name of the webinar? I don't know, but the...
No, of the movie.
The story of plastic. It's on Amazon.
The story of plastic. Okay, got it.
Actually, I could probably check.
Well, while you're looking for that, I just believe that knowledge is power. And if there's a way to actually educate the business owners, and they're actually now advocates against the plastic, it's not going to be so much pushback. Because this is a pandemic right now, and for what we're hearing, to retreat because this plastic is truly killing the environment. So I just think that the public needs to understand that we are still against, and we're advocating against, and there's an opportunity to come to the table to discuss and to educate. It's just my idea. Yeah.
I think that's great. So next steps, could be that we reach out to ANJEC and see if they would be willing to co-host a movie, like filming with us, and maybe that and I wonder, Carolina, do you think that the Office of Sustainability has any appetite to get back like into advocating for plastic reduction right now? You don't have to answer that. I don't want to I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but maybe because it's the Office of Sustainability already has such good like educational materials and documentation about the importance of reducing plastics that maybe we can bring some of that material up and have another kind of campaign right before the showing of the film.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Sweet. We can reach out to ANJEC. Luz, do you have contact? Did you have a contact there?
Their email. Every time it's just the info at ANJEC, they always respond right back.
Yeah, or we could try Liz Ritter. She's pretty responsive, so.
Okay, cool. I think that's great. Okay, so we will bring this up again next time, and hopefully we'll have an update about how to move forward with the showing, and then we can talk a little bit more about education.
Because I think also the Parks Coalition, they did, just before this hit, they also did a movie regarding plastics, about microplastics. But this this hit, and I don't know how many, I spoke with Paula, she's now the president of Parks Coalition. She said that last event that they sponsored, quite a few people did go despite the fact that we were about to get shut down. So Parks Coalition also has material.
That could be a great place to collaborate too, right? To get, yeah. Okay, sweet. So we can work together, Luz. You can, yeah, sweet. We'll sort this out. Good. The next order of business is language access policy for environmental education materials. That's you, Carolina, right?
Yeah. So something that we have definitely, well, and by we, I mean the Office of Sustainability, especially during the bag ban, when we were doing the outreach for that, a lot of business owners do speak different languages. And so we did hire a consultant to translate our materials. But this is a problem it's a recurring problem where we don't have any kind of language access policy for like environmental education materials or environmental hazard materials. I know that Health and Human Services does for obvious reasons, but of course there are a lot of public health issues tied in with environmental hazards. And so we were wondering if there's maybe a way that the Environmental Commission could make some sort of recommendation on the importance of having a language access policy for environmental hazards or environmental educational materials.
I don't see why not. I don't know why anyone would be against that sort of a recommendation. Who would the recommendation be to?
Maybe council or maybe Health and Human Services. Let me circle back with Kate to identify the best person, and I will let you know.
I would fully support that. We can talk about it next time. We can draft something up and officially vote on it when we know who it goes out to, I guess. But why not? Absolutely. Okay. Thanks, Carolina. Does anyone else have anything to add? If not, we'll move on to our next order of business, which is the green business application. And so one of the fun things that and Tammy and Lucy, you probably might not have even had the opportunity to vote on one of these yet too, but the Jersey City Environmental Commission has like the final say in who becomes a green business here in Jersey City. So we vote on the applicants. They apply online. If they hit a number, it's 15 points now, but if they just get those points and we believe that they're being, you know, honest, and we don't see anything like completely erroneous, then we vote to approve those businesses. And so we have one application. It's from a it's called Fundraising Well. Carolina shared it with us all. It's in our Google Drive. They are a business that links, I think they kind of like link nonprofits with fundraising.
Yeah, so they're like a consulting agency, and they provide free or subsidized services to different nonprofits in Jersey City. And they worked with Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Humane Society, and another organization called Europe, who collaborates with Hudson County Community College, and who helps the youth enter the workforce, or the corporate workforce. And on their application, the spin to their sustainability efforts, they said that they are doing everything virtually now. So that means, you know, no transit footprint, and less paper wasted. So they definitely have a presence online and social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a home office, it seems like, and most of their points, I can't remember what it was. It was over 15.
Yeah, it was like 27 points. Yeah.
But most of it came from, you know, recycling. When having events, they used local businesses, and I think it was sustainably sourced. We have funny stuff. I mean, not funny. It's like totally important, but like low flush toilets. So they got the points. And it seems like a cool organization. They're based here in Jersey City, and it's free. It seems like for Jersey City-based nonprofits to utilize their services. So,
or subsidized, yeah.
Or subsidized. Thank you. So I'm going to move to approve Fundraising Well. They hit the points, and I think it's good. All in favor? Oh.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. That's great. Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
The ayes have it, and we approve Fundraising Well. Cool. Sorry, I lost my agenda. Oh, next up is Office of Sustainability updates. However, yeah, you can hear me. We have two more items that we'd like to discuss. So first is, thank you for bringing this up to us, Scott. And Lindsey, you're still on the line, so thank you for staying this time. It is the flood overlay zone. I'm trying to look at what it actually is called.
It's like the Sustainability Initiative.
What are we talking about? MUA's initiative or planning's initiative? They're separate.
Maybe we can talk about both, if you don't mind giving us a little bit of a lesson, Lindsey. I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, no problem. So last night, the flood overlay zone, which was proposed by city planning, was passed, which is great. That was one of the recommendations from our resiliency master plan, was to require green infrastructure for all new development in the 100-year floodplain. So it does just that. It references a green area ratio that all development will have to follow. So it's basically like a checklist of different green infrastructure requirements, stormwater detention, new trees or preservation of existing trees. There's a lot of different options, and I'd be more than happy to share that with Carolina if you want to send out the language if you're interested. And as far as MUA's initiative, this hasn't gone before City Council yet, so I don't want to say too much because it might have changed, but the basic premise is that developers will get a rebate, or I guess you could think of it as like a discount on their sewer connection fees if they propose a LEED certified building and a certain amount of stormwater detention on site. But I was working with them because I wanted to make sure that they meet the flood overlay zone and our stormwater ordinance requirements before they get any type of financial benefit from it. That was something I was really concerned about, because, this is really my opinion is, we shouldn't really be financially awarding developers for doing something that, they should already be doing. And that's the premise behind the flood overlay zone, is it's just straight up required. You don't get any, financial benefit. So just wanted to make sure that they had to follow that first. And this is the direction like we're going in anyway. The state passed new stormwater rules. I guess it was about 2-3 months ago, probably about a month before COVID. And so municipalities will be required to update their stormwater ordinance, which applies to all development, not just in the floodplain, that they have to institute green infrastructure before they resort to gray. So this is just the direction we're moving in anyway. But anyways, goes a little step further by including LEED certification. So it's not just about stormwater, it's under the overarching umbrella of sustainability. So I would just keep your eye on council agendas. I'll do the same. So if you want to, tune in or request to ask questions or speak during the council meeting when it's presented, you'll have an idea of when that's going forward, or if the commission wanted to, either write up something in support or comments, you'll have the opportunity to do that. But I believe that you guys were somewhat involved in the evolution of that. That was my understanding. That's kind of how it's shifted from its original proposal due to concerns raised by myself and you all. So that basically sums it up. If you want me to talk more about the overlay zone, I'd be happy to, but that's the short version.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Lindsay. I can just update everyone real quick about the involvement. I think that also there was questions about how much the Environmental Commission has been involved. And I will say that we haven't been very much involved beyond. So there are a few ways that the Environmental Commission, I think, had been involved in these types of initiatives. One would be that we are on the CSO. It has been a while. I'm forgetting all of these, what these teams are called, but we know that Jersey City and a lot of other municipalities are out of compliance with the Clean Water Act because we have combined sewage overflows that sends sewage into our streets and our rivers and our waterways rather. And so the Jersey City Environmental Commission is a member of like the teams that are involved in basically being a buffer between the community and the policy makers and I guess the organizations that are coming up with a long-term control plan so we can get back in compliance. And so the Environmental Commission is involved in that process. And I did actually, I believe, email everyone. And if I didn't, I'll remember to tonight when the next meeting, oh, it's today, isn't it? I think it's happening right now.
Are you talking about the supplemental CSO meeting?
Yeah.
That was last week or the week before. It already happened. There should be another one, and we're working through START. We're working with MUA and City Council on having a virtual public meeting. So I'll definitely keep you updated about that, because that'll be an opportunity to weigh in on, how the city and the region will be mitigating the combined sewer overflow issue. So I believe that the most up-to-date alternatives to a combined sewer system to reduce those overflows will be presented, which is great. But yeah, so the supplemental CSO meeting, the last one passed, but there wasn't really anything set in stone during that meeting. It was just an overview of like what could happen.
Thank you, Lindsay. And I believe that they always put their presentations online, and so I can share that with the Environmental Commission so that we have that presentation. So that's the one way that we're involved in these types of initiatives. And then the other is Sewage-Free Streets and Rivers, which is an initiative formed by NJ Future. And Jersey City Environmental Commission is a member of like a few other groups that are trying to move this conversation on how to, I think, best implement some of these either green infrastructure or just gray infrastructure, I guess, to mitigate the issues with CSOs. And so right before all of this went down, there was and actually, sorry, just as another thing is that the member of the Environmental Commission that had been on this sewage free was Michelle Lupke, and Michelle stopped being on the Environmental Commission right before Luce came on. And so we probably had maybe a teensy bit of a gap in coverage of that team around that time. So there was basically Sewage Free was trying to reach out to Mayor Fulop and have a meeting. The last time that they had a meeting to discuss, I think, green and stormwater initiatives in Jersey City, the Environmental Commission was at that meeting. And we had discussed right before all of this, I discussed with Mo, maybe not being present in this next meeting just because there was so much uncertainty about what was happening at the state level and also at the local level with the flood overlay zones. So that's kind of where we are at, and I don't have much more of an update than that. So that's our involvement, sorry. So with the MUA initiative, unless there are other members of the Environmental Commission, and that's totally fine, who had been involved in that conversation, we have not been involved in that conversation.
Well, so when I first heard about this, I thought that this was a very good thing. Anything that we can do to help support sustainability initiatives and programs is a bonus and should be strongly supported. However, you know, and by the way, just as an FYI, you've been busy, Allison, but you, Mario, and I have been emailed both by Mo and by Tom. They haven't been able to get on, and they want. I know Tom wanted to get on for the public comment period. And I wasn't sure because I had missed the meeting, so I wasn't sure whether I had missed discussion. So I had even spoken to Mario, and you know there is some more consideration. It turns out that really needs to be had. You know, this sustainability incentive program really is, you know, it's a new approach, I guess, for new and existing development to divert stormwater from our sewer system. And you mentioned, CSOs. I live in the downtown, and so I had taken, a very particular interest in flooding issues, as we've been flooded many times, and so much so that we had been involved. I mean, even not us directly, but with neighbors. And when the mayor was still a councilman, and we had big meetings with the MUA and Dan Becht, who was in charge at the time, and they were pointing out the amount of funding that would be needed to separate the sewers. Talking about a very old system, and so that sort of drives a question here. That great that we are supporting sustainability here, but the LEED certification. My wife is LEED certified. She's LEED AP, and so I'm very aware of. And we've had LEED AP buildings at NJCU, and there is a huge point system that help determine what level LEED certification can be achieved, and it's entirely possible. Not even possible. I mean, it's very easy to arrive with a LEED certification and not having done anything with reducing stormwater runoff or wastewater discharge. Not at all. And so then that begs the question, you know, I forgot, Carolina was kind enough to send me the actual press release. So the LEED Platinum is a 60% credit. It goes from 15% to 30% to 45% to 60%. And one of the things that came up when we were talking about the huge investment it would take to get this work to happen. I mean, Dan Beck really made this point. You've got $1 billion lying around your pocket. And one of the things that became clear is that the sewer connection fees for each condominium that goes up, or for all these buildings or all the multiple condominiums, there's a sewer connection fee. And I haven't kept up with the time, so I don't know what the connection fee is today. But back when this had happened, cities like Old Bridge and wherever, they were collecting like $15,000 or $18,000 connection fee, whereas here it was something like I think $1,700 or $1,800. And so there was a big question. We have all this development going. This is 2008, maybe 2009. And the question was, wait, we have all this development going up. We're increasing density. Now is the time where we can make this ask of developers to help, even though we're talking about $1 billion, I guess increasing your sewer connection fee from $1,800 to $10,000 or $15,000, it's not going to cover it all, but it would certainly make a dent. And as I said, I don't know what the connection fee is today, but to develop a rebate plan whose focus is to make an impact on reducing stormwater, but it's not correlated in any way. This can effectively become a rebate that actually helps the building out. It helps them to fund, say, more energy efficient windows. So really helps them in the pocket elsewhere, but doesn't necessarily really go to the goal of what's going on here. So the question is, if we're looking to support green building certification, if we're looking to support development in a sustainable manner, sewer connection fees, probably a rebate, should be tied to the amount of water that's actually diverted from the system, and maybe that's the way it should be looked at. And so a lot of developers are going to take this without having to do some of the very, very expensive and very difficult tasks to divert stormwater, and they can really go for some low-hanging fruit. And it's sort of bigger picture for people who are not aware of the details would argue that this is only a good thing, that that the city is promoting sustainable development. But I mean, what's the name of this? This is called the name of this rebate is called
Sustainability Incentive Program.
Yeah, it's called the Sustainability Incentive Program, but it focuses on diverting stormwater from the sewer system, and yet there's no metric that ties the amount of water diverted to the amount of rebate that they're getting to promote any of that development.
And it's also not tied to specifically green infrastructure or sustainability incentives, aside from having LEED certification, which I'm sure we can all agree that most new buildings are going to be anyway, right?
What do you mean? You mean most of it? What do you mean most of me anyway? Because it's not cheap to get this. To have a LEED certified architect involved, there is substantial cost in getting a LEED certification.
I would ask. I mean, I'm making a stretch then in saying that most new buildings in Jersey City probably have some LEED certification already, is what I'm saying. I don't know the percentage of that, and I don't necessarily, I could be wrong. But what I'm saying is I completely agree with the fact that it seems as if this is very low hanging fruit because it seems that, again, that's all I'm saying. I'm agreeing with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some history here. Back when Jeremiah Healy was mayor, we had a sustainability conference where one of the Kennedy clan came in to speak. I'm trying to think what year that was. And I remember there was a lot of talk about promoting sustainability, and the idea then was, depending upon what level LEED certification that you had, and we were in the midst of renovating our house. And the idea back then was, based upon what level of LEED certification, you would get your permit fees and all those rebated back to you. So we're thinking, hey, talking to my wife, we should obviously do this for our own house. So this has gone through a certain evolution, and I really do think it's a great idea, but the problem is the really hard stuff, the expensive stuff, the stuff that many folks in Jersey City suffer from is not really addressed. This looks good, and it is worthy of some support, but there really should be a tightened relationship between a rebate, particularly when it's a rebate to a sewer connection fee. I mean, I don't understand how they came up with that. And I think it's also worthwhile, if we're going to rebate sewer connection fees, we should also have sewer connection fees that are right in line with what other municipalities are charging. So I'm assuming they've gone up from the 1800. I don't know, but if they're low, and then we're rebating them, boy, we're giving away all the money that we need to separate our sanitary from our storm, and it's a huge problem. And I'm just Mo Kinberg sent over in exchange, and unfortunately, or fortunately, she had a lot of back and forth with Mayor Phillip, and she doesn't share that. She just shares with her original ask, which is pretty much what I'm conveying. And I guess I don't think it's appropriate for me to read what she said, but I mean, I don't know unless you tell me it's appropriate. But
I'm not sure what you're.
Well, no, she just referred to, it's a very nice email. It's her initial email on behalf of Canco Park Conservancy, Hamilton Park Neighborhood, Pershing Field Neighborhood Association, Sustainable Jersey City, Embankment Preservation Coalition, etc. Essentially, probably making a better case than I'm making right now, but a very nice email just to this effect. And then there was, I've seen Tom share with me an email, Steve and Mayor Phillip's response, and then a response back and forth. And so there is a little bit more going on here behind the scenes. Lindsey said that there have been some more modifications. I'm not aware of some of that, so maybe some of this has been addressed. But I do think that, subject to everybody else's, viewpoints, that it would be good to go on the record that we support the general idea of supporting green building certification and supporting sustainable development, but that should be linked appropriately. That's
Okay, I'm just jotting that down because I agree. We support green development and LEED, and I guess, something about LEED certification. It's not that we're against LEED certification, it's just that the benefit.
I mean, there's a complete delinking here.
Right. The benefit
provided water diversion and sustainable, green construction. Essentially what this does is this offsets the cost of putting in high efficiency lights or windows, or and it doesn't help the stormwater issue at all. And this may perhaps be our strongest issue. Something I'll share with you from my days on the Historic Preservation Commission. Downtown, a lot of the buildings are having a problem, a structural problem. So you have some buildings, it turns out that a number of buildings would, their basements would always flood. This flooding tends to loosen some of the aggregate, the historic cementitious material between the bricks. It's not the overwhelming problem as long as all the homes flood. However, some homes have gotten renovated and they put these really nice pump systems in. And so what they do is they keep the water from coming in their place. So now the next door places that have not had such modifications, those walls are not waterproof. So now you actually have head pressure, you know, of a foot or two, whatever it is, these different places flood. And I've seen pictures of it where it looks like little boys peeing. You have these little pee holes where water is peeing out of the party wall where the next door is flooded, but it's not on that side. And when you're done, when everything dries up, you're left with all the sand all over the place. It's causing a channelization of these party walls. And on Washington Street, I can't remember the exact number, but it's going back about 5 years now, an entire section of party wall in one of those big row houses on Washington Street settled. Caused a huge problem, you know, and this was something that we were seeing could possibly happen elsewhere. And we have a lot of, you know, we've got a lot of historic structures in the downtown area here that is also similarly the same place that has a flooding issue. And this is really something that we need to get a handle on, and this really does not help it.
So then what I'm hearing from you, I think, would be to get more up to speed on the current MUA initiative. Yeah. But nonetheless, if it is in its current form, in the same way that we understand it, which is that it's linked to LEED certification, but there's no linkage to stormwater mitigation, that the Environmental Commission should come out with a statement, something to the effect of, we support, you know, green development. I kind of jotted down what you said, and I'll write it, I'll write it, I can't think right now. I'll put it in an email, and we'll agree with what it says, but that would be sent to perhaps City Council and directly to the MUA, just to let them know what we're thinking. The other thing, though, that you bring up, and I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind taking on something, is that we are a part of that group, and that you had mentioned, and Michelle and I had discussed not being a part of the conversation until we had a better idea of what the MUA was happening, or what was happening with the MUA's initiative. But now that we don't have Michelle, Scott, would you like to be the Jersey City Environmental Commission's representative on sewage-free streets and rivers?
I actually, you know, I've been trying to attend these meetings. You know, this always falls under the category, it seemed like a good idea at the time. My inclination is to say yes, but I'm so beyond busy with COVID, with work. It's very, you know, I'm missing some key meetings. I try what I can. So I could say yes with a caveat. I don't know.
Yeah. Does anyone else that is on the line then want to maybe be Scott's backup? So we can ask to have 2 members, and I'm putting you guys on the spot, but only because I don't want for things to just slip through my cracks as well, you know? And then if not, maybe I can be Scott's backup. So Scott, I can introduce you formally. I know you already know Mo, but I'll say that you will be the Environmental Commission's representative. However, please still loop me in so that hopefully one of us catches things. Does that sound like a plan?
That's fine. Look, I know Mo, I've met her several times. We've been emailing during this Environmental Commission meeting. So I guess maybe I'm getting my meetings mixed up, because occasionally I think some of these meetings that I'm thinking of conflict with our own.
Start.
With our own.
Yeah, these meetings we've actually. Yeah, starts different. So this sewage free, I don't know if we've ever had in-person meetings ever. It's more of an email chain.
Oh, I guess then okay, I don't know what I'm talking about then.
I'm sure you do, but it's confusing because everything's an acronym and it all kind of has the same goal. But yeah, so sewage free is much more, it's a campaign. It's a campaign to get, this was what it had been. And I don't want to put words in Mo's mouth because she would tell me exactly what it is, but it is certainly more of a campaign.
Look, count me in. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a lot of background knowledge here, or historical knowledge, so I'm more than willing to be involved.
Perfect. Okay, so then I'm going to make that connection. And in the meantime, do you think, because now you do have a background, and Lindsey, you might know this as well, but is it very, very timely for the Environmental Commission to come out with a statement that is similar to what we had discussed, or is it something that we can flesh out a little bit more and come back to in July?
Are you asking if there's like an extreme rush to put something together? I would check with someone from MUA about when this is going on a city council agenda. Kate had been working with them closely from the beginning. So maybe she can, start that conversation just to get a sense of when it'll be on an agenda. I think that would give you whether or not there's a sense of urgency with that piece regarding like the long-term control plan and how just the MUA is planning on mitigating CSOs individually and along with the region. That is not due until the beginning of October. So there is still time. And like I said, we're still planning a public meeting, which probably won't happen until August realistically. So yeah, I guess it would depend with the sustainability incentive program with the whole lead portion. I would confirm with MUA about the timeline on that. I think that would inform, how quickly you'd want to put something together as far as comments go.
Thank you, Lindsey.
No problem.
I don't know. I mean, maybe we can do this behind the scenes, but it might be worthy, or I could forward this along to you guys. But there's a little email from Mo about this directly, about some suggestions that she makes about how to link these two. But there does seem to be some political skew to this thing.
Well, yeah, we will always, to the best that we can, stay out of the politics and focus on the science. And that is hopefully what we can still do. I'm sure there's politics and everything, but if we can just focus on what the legislation that is being proposed is proposing, and then what we think, or how we weigh in as an advisory board on science and environmental related issues, we hopefully don't even have to get into the politics. We can, does anyone else, we can also, another thing that we sometimes do is to make, we can still make a motion to draft something that is in line with what I just said. And we can approve that if we're comfortable. And then I put something together and then pass it by everyone via email, and everyone just confirms that, yeah, this is what I had in mind. So if there is some sort of sense of urgency that we can get that out to the MUA and City Council, I guess more quickly than if we waited this past month. So if people feel comfortable, like, hey, yeah, I feel really passionate about this, we can move in that direction. I think that's fine. Or we can say, hey, let's wait until we actually see what the incentive program looks like. I don't even know if there's a version that's publicly available. The last time I was aware that I was not aware that there was. What do you guys think?
I have to say, given how this has already progressed to the point that it is now, it's probably better to get into the mix earlier rather than later. I mean, even if there are more refinements, there may be the viewpoint, hey, look, we've made modifications, we heard from people, we made more modifications, and now you want to, have us rethink some of the basic notions here. I think it's better maybe to be more general, but to, put this out there. that we're supportive, but we would like a little bit more linking of how these rebates are decided. I mean, if you want, I'm happy. If we all agree, I maybe move this point, and then maybe I can do a little bit more research to try to add some more details, and then everybody take a look at that. And I'll track changes. If you don't like it, you toss what I put in. But I'm apolitical here. I'm a big believer in being data informed and connecting the dots.
So I agree. I think, yeah, do it before, just to get a feel of what either if we need to think about something else or improve on something, or how do we word it. But just want to make a statement. I think politics is always going to be involved. I think that's the reason why we can't get a lot of things done. So knowing the politics is kind of important as to why legislation does or doesn't get passed, or ordinances or anything. So getting to know the council people and how they represent the constituents is important. What is like Ward? I think now we have a good mix because we have Ward E, F, and B, right? I don't think we have anybody.
That's in C.
Right? So even we have an idea of what politics may play into it. So I think that's so important to look at.
That's a good point.
So yeah, I guess we all agree that you should go forward and put something together just to let them know that we're still watching. And after Scott does his homework and we come back to the table, we can move forward with any initiatives that are possible or necessary. Because flooding in Jersey City is a huge problem. I own a brownstone and I can concur that this is an ongoing issue.
The point that I was trying to make is that not only is it an ongoing issue, but that if it continues unabated, there will be some consequences.
Right, I agree.
That's everyone. Matt, are you still with us?
I am, yeah. So, I mean, I agree. I'm not sure if I totally see what approach is kind of best right now. I'm not sure if I have a full grasp of it, but yeah, I'll kind of follow everyone else's lead.
Great, then I think we at least agree to put something together, very, very brief. Again, that we're supportive of green development, LEED certification in Jersey City. What we don't believe that the JCMUA's current sustainability initiative or whatever that allows for developers to, I guess, receive a benefit from the sewage connection. How it something I'll make it sound better. It should directly link to stormwater mitigation. So any benefit that they receive, especially if it has something to do with sewage connection, should be directly linked to stormwater mitigation. And then we'll do a little bit of figuring out how best to say it over the course of the next month. And then before anything gets sent, we'll have everyone agree on the language specifically as to how we settle on it.
Sounds great.
Sounds good to me.
So I'm going to move forward with what I just said.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All opposed? Excellent. So the ayes have it. So the motion specifically about the Jersey City Environmental Commission commenting on the JCMUA's sustainability initiative will pass. Sweet.
Sounds great.
Cool. Thank you, Scott, for all of that context.
Sure. Happy to do it. Thank you for taking this up.
Yeah. Makes sense. All right, so I think the only other addition before we get to sustainability which is like how I like to close out the meetings, sustainability updates, is, I'll put you on the spot real fast, Matt. It's the Shade Tree Committee. So one thing that the Environmental Commission, one member of the Environmental Commission is, it's mandated that one member of the Environmental Commission is on the Shade Tree Committee. And our member is Matt. And so we want to get in a rhythm of getting updates from Matt also every time that we meet, so we know what's happening there. Matt, what is happening on the Shade Tree front?
So we haven't had a meeting, I think, since February due to everything. We have our first meeting scheduled for first meeting back, but we only started meeting in December, I believe. So it's a new committee, but we're planning to meet July 20th, figuring out how we do all of that, either virtually or some people in person. The one thing I think I had sent around is we're going to be looking at the forestry standards. So if anyone has particular input on that, please let me know. I know there's other groups that are going to be adding their voices to it. So if there's things people would like to see changes to the forestry standards, in general, to me, they look pretty good. I think it's mostly figuring out how they actually get enforced in the city, because there isn't a clear pathway for that. But if anyone else wants to look at those, I can send those out again, the link to those if people want to review, and I'm happy to, convey everyone's ideas at our next meeting. So.
Yeah, Matt, unless that would be awesome if you were able to send it around again, and I will forward you, I think, Tammy, you've been CC'd on some emails, but I will, if the email that we use is a good one for you to use, then I can okay, cool. Then I'll just introduce the commission to you via email so everyone has your contact information. Cool. Thank you, Matt. All right, Carolina, you're up.
Okay, so last summer, NJCU students mapped Ward A. So it was a whole, it was like an 8-week project, and it went really well. So this year, we've already started mapping Ward B. That's in the works with—
I'm sorry, mapping, just mapping what?
I'm sorry, tree mapping. Did I not say that? Sorry, tree mapping. So in order to improve our, continue our efforts to improve our tree canopy, we'll be mapping again this summer. It's already started. So it's a collaboration between the green teams from Montclair State University, and it's made up of students from various different universities in the area. And also in collaboration with NJCU once again. So now they're moving on to Ward B, and we'll hopefully complete that by mid-August or the end of August. So that's, and then also with the Climate Action Plan, that was on hold for a while because of COVID. And so we were only able to host one public meeting in March, right before everything happened. So we originally planned to have a consultant help us write the plan, but because of some budget cuts due to what's been going on, we're probably going to do that in-house. So we're going to move forward and meet with our working groups and a steering committee to continue to collect feedback on all of our action items.
Thank you, Carolina. And of course, if you want any feedback from the commission, because I know not all of us are on the working groups, we're here. It's
quick question. Sustainability JC is also mapping trees, and they were like looking for help. So I don't know. And it seems like you're mapping the same areas.
Yeah, so I know, so I don't know what platform they're using exactly. I think it was a
TreeMap.
Tree Map, yeah. So our students, the students at Montclair State University and NGCU are using GPS technology, so not like phones, so they try to get more accurate data. And this is part of their project to map the rest of, to map that ward. So they are compiling that information. And then we'll probably, I mean, now that you bring that up, a good idea for them, something else to work on is how to share that information with the public moving forward. And that's maybe something that they can discuss.
So when you tree map, you go, you take the picture and you identify it, because I'm actually one of the mappers, so is it kind of the same premise? And then it gets into a database and
yeah, so it's going into their they're mapping it. It's going into their database on ArcGIS Pro Online, which is for mapping. And so that's how they're like on the go using the GPS units they have, and going block by block and mapping everything and directly inputting it into the database.
And Carolina, would you confirm that they're working and being trained by the foresters also, right? Is this is?
Yeah, they were yeah, so the foresters are looped in. Our landscape architect is also looped in because he helped us out last year. And also they get they have like teachers over at Montclair State University that are helping them and guiding them through this, from like a GPS professor, a GIS professor, to like an arborist over Montclair State University too. So it's this whole collaboration with them.
what are they going to do with the data? Is that for the city, the state, the college?
Yeah, they so towards the end of their project, one of their tasks is to come up with a good way to disperse that information. So whether it's going to live on that like ArcGIS portal online, or if it's going to live on a different data portal. So that's something else that they're going to work on once they're done vetting the data.
What group is this again? Sustainable. What group?
So it's a collaboration between NJCU, their GIS students, and the program through Montclair State University is called the PSEG Green Teams. So it's kind of like they get like a stipend, and they get a stipend and they apply for these projects and they work on it all summer long.
Thank you, Carolina.
Yes. Oh, wait, I have one more thing tonight. I just want to go back to the pollinator garden item. Is there anyone that would like to be looped into that project? Okay, great. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Just Tammy? Yeah. You sure? Oh, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's it.
Good. Sweet. Okay. So that's our last item of business. I cannot believe it's already been 2 hours. Thank you all so much for sitting that long and staying with us. But before we leave, does anyone else have any other closing remarks that they'd like to add that we didn't address?
I'd just like to say this has been very educational. I kind of binged, instead of on Netflix, I binged in Google Docs, and to kind of educate myself on the Environmental Commission. And I've learned so much on this evening, and I'm kind of looking forward. I'm just really excited and looking forward to being of assistance to everyone in the commission. Yeah.
I'm very looking forward to having you as a part of the team. So thank you for taking on this opportunity.
My pleasure.
Oh, Carolina, do you want to discuss schedule? Did you say, was that a thing? Do you know dates yet or no for next month?
No, I don't know dates yet. But For the most part, does this time work for everyone? Is 5:30 okay?
It's fine.
Okay, and is there a day of the week that you prefer? So I'll try to accommodate as much as possible, but planning and historic and zoning have so many meetings, so.
Not Monday and not Friday.
Not Monday and not Friday? Okay, that's fair.
Not Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday. I was gonna say.
And not Wednesday or Thursday.
Oh, that's not fair.
No Saturday afternoon? No.
Definitely not Sunday.
No.
You know, we should have one of our meetings outside.
Oh,
That's a great idea.
Socially distant, but
Right.
outside.
I can volunteer Lincoln Park.
You guys have been hosting masses. It's been lovely to watch.
Oh, I haven't been posting that.
Oh, or maybe not you, but at Lincoln Park, there's a church that's using it.
Oh,
Sam,
yeah, I heard.
and it seems like it's high tech too. They
It is.
actually watched one of the masses and they have 4 screens. It's like, whoa. But it's still disconcerting because they keep sharing a mic and I couldn't watch it anymore.
You know, another nice place is, anybody been to the park? I don't even know if it's Liberty State Park anymore, but it's owned by the city. A little spit of land that juts out into the harbor.
Oh, is it Morris Canal Park?
Yes, that's
It's
right.
a Morris Canal.
Yeah, that is
It's
cute.
very nice.
So it's Morris Canal on one side, and then but that little part it used to be Liberty State Park. I think it's now owned by the city. I think, but it's great. I mean, nice breeze and the water on all sides. We bring a chair and we can stay 6 feet apart and have our meeting.
Oh,
I'm really thinking that it's in but Lincoln Park. It's great, but if attendees wanted to come, that's a little bit more of a hike for them than to come down to the Liberty State Park point. But wherever it's fine by me.
Well, it depends on who you're talking about, because for me, Lincoln Park is not a hike.
Yeah, Lincoln Park is fun.
No. I wasn't meaning. I'm sorry. Yeah, Tammy.
Maybe we can do like a hybrid thing, like
Yeah,
I'll bring
I
a
know.
laptop and
Right.
stream everyone, and then people continue.
Or, what I love is, because we want to get more people from different areas involved in things, and we've had this initiative before, is rotate around. If we have this weird opportunity right now to be outside, then maybe we can try different parks.
That's great. I'm open.
okay. Now I know which what you were referring to. It was a church that went to Lincoln Park West.
Yes.
And that's what they did. They brought out chairs and they actually had it out on the outside, yeah. But Diana Wishes is also filming Mass, but they have it inside.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Diana Wishes is doing it inside. There was another church, I forgot the name, they did it outside and went to Lincoln Park West. It used to be Lincoln Park West, there were less people there, but since COVID hit and obviously we've been trying to promote Lincoln Park West, we got more people going down there. So.
I'm there all the time. It's awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we will settle on a location. Maybe we can have an anonymous vote or something for our first one. We can have some ideas go around. And but I like the idea of trying to potentially meet outside in July. Does that actually work with everyone? Do you want that to be a goal, to meet outside?
I love it.
I think it's a great idea. I just need at least a week or two notice so I can get my schedule together, but absolutely, it's doable.
Yeah, and
So-
5:30 might be tougher for me because I'm just getting off of work at 5:30 right now. So
Is 6 okay?
like probably 6:30, I could commute back by then.
My only concern is mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also make a rain date if it rains.
All right.
It's not going to
Are
rain.
we?
It's not gonna rain, okay.
Would we want to continue doing, like what I mentioned, something via Zoom, just so that I know if I even have to consult with planning about their schedule so we can use their account? So it would just be like a regular in-person meeting?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be hard to offer the Zoom opportunity. Thank you for that detail, Carolina. We could still call people in. I guess it would just be, it would be hard. Either,
Yeah.
we could still do that. I mean, because there might be some attendees who don't feel comfortable going out, who may want to zoom in. But I mean, I could offer up my phone as a hotspot for
Okay.
for our computer lookup. So
Okay.
as long as I have cell signal, we have Zoom.
Okay.
Parks have Wi-Fi. Lincoln Park supposedly has Wi-Fi. I've never used it, but supposedly it has one.
You like Lincoln Park? Okay, Lincoln Park it is then.
Friends of Lincoln Park.
So for July, we would keep the 14th then, or do you want me to send out a poll, or what do you guys want to do?
14th was on your schedule, and it works for me right now. The more notice people get, probably the better it is.
Okay. And 6:30?
That's okay with me.
8 o'clock, because mosquitoes will definitely be out in force.
Do you have to ask the city if it's okay, or is it kind of, we're autonomous anyway, so?
As long as it's when I sunshine and with enough notice, I let them know that there's a change of day and time. That's fine.
Matt, is 6 o'clock possible? I'm just worried about getting eaten up as it's about 7:30 or so.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm driving to Lincoln Park, I can get there a little bit after 6. So I might be a little bit late, but that would
Okay.
totally.
Or you could always call in if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't actually
speaker.
work perfectly today driving anyway, so that's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 6 p.m. All right.
Okay. It'll force us to get through the agenda more quickly if we're getting bitten by bugs too.
Of course, Allison. Of course.
Okay, I think we're good then, right? So we're actually going to physically see each other, albeit socially distanced and with masks ready, on the 14th. And if no one else has any other comments or concerns, then we can adjourn the meeting at 7:40 p.m.
Good seeing everybody.
Okay, sweet. Thank you guys again so much, and thank you to the one attendee who stuck with us. I appreciate it.
Good night.
Good night, guys. Take care.